Hi, today we're gonna make keema curry. Keema curry is a dry meat curry. I suppose you could probably use this recipe with lentils, but I highly recommend it with either ground beef or ground turkey. Today I'm going to make this dish with ground turkey, and I'm gonna try to make my mom's version a little bit more healthy. It's been a it's been a really busy day today. I have got one out of three kids with a ear infection, and my toddler just went down for a nap. So I've got about 30 minutes to get this dish done before the kids and I have to go off to their yoga class. And I think you can see the girls, my twins, in the background. It's uh it's crazy how quickly the day goes by. Today, my 5-year-old Anju, who was sick, stayed home with me, and we ran up several errands. And she said, "Mom, your day is so busy when we're at school." And it's true. I think that my day with three kids at home is busier than it ever was when I was working full time. But I love it, and it's great. So the first thing is keema curry is traditionally made with potatoes, and I didn't have any regular potatoes in my pantry. All I had were sweet potatoes. So I took about four to five small sweet potatoes, and I peeled them, and I cut them up into little cubes about this size. And so I took a baking sheet, I lined it with foil. I have my cubed potatoes here ready to go. And all I'm going to do is add a bit of olive oil to my potatoes and sprinkle it with turmeric. And I'm going to go ahead and roast those in an oven that's set to 400 degrees. And after 10 minutes, I'll probably flip them over and cook for another 10 minutes. I think the potatoes should cook in about 20 minutes. It may take 30 minutes, depending on your oven and how hot it is. But I think 20 minutes should suffice. And while my sweet potatoes cook in the oven, I'm going to go ahead and make my keema curry. And so in a very large frying pan or skillet, something this size. I like to use a big skillet. I guess you don't need something quite this big. I just think it makes it easier to move around. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put in about 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil. And then I'm going to add 1 onion that I've diced up. I don't know if you can see the onion, it's just diced up. And I'm going to cook these onions in my olive oil until the onions have softened and they lose a lot of that rawness and they have a nice soft taste. And once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and add my spices and saute my spices with my onion for about a minute. The spices we're going to have today are going to be, 1 teaspoon of turmeric right here. And then I'm not going to add 1 teaspoon of red chili powder because I do think it's going to be too hot for the children. So I added about 1/8 of a teaspoon. And I'll try it later. And if I think that the kids can tolerate a little more heat, I might increase it to 1/4 of a teaspoon. I've also got 1 teaspoon of what my mom calls a small coriander. It's a small coriander from Bangladesh that's been ground up. It's much darker in color. Here it is, the coriander, than regular coriander powder. I don't know how you would possibly procure this special small ground up coriander powder. So if you can't find it, I would use just regular ground coriander powder. I also have 2 teaspoons of garlic ginger paste. Once again, you can buy garlic ginger paste from the Indian grocery store. You can make your own. And the ratio is going to be 2/3 ginger to 1/3 garlic that you can either food process or blend in your blender. And if you make a large quantity, add a little bit of turmeric so it does stay good in your fridge for 2 to 4 weeks. I also have 2 bay leaves. Bay leaves are dry. And I've got about 1 1/2 cinnamon sticks. I have 8 cloves, and here, I'm so sorry, these are cardamom. I've got 8 cardamoms, and they're just green little cardamoms. And I have about 10 cloves, and here they are, little cloves. And I'm going to saute all of this with about 1.5 teaspoons of salt with my onion, just for about a minute until everything starts getting really fragrant. And once it gets fragrant, I'm going to add about 1¼ pounds of ground turkey meat to this. And I'm going to cook until my turkey is partially cooked. Oh, my turkey is about partially cooked. I will go ahead and add 1.5 cups of frozen peas. And finally, I'll finish the dish with my roasted sweet potatoes. And of course, I will season with any additional salt or pepper that I need. And I'm going to serve this tonight with brown basmati rice and a big green leafy salad. So I'll be back in just a moment, and I'm going to go ahead and roast up my sweet potatoes and get my keema curry started. So my sweet potatoes are currently in the oven and they are roasting. And I have my onion with a little bit of olive oil, and I'm just cooking those down. One time, a long time ago, when I was making curry, I didn't cook my onions out properly. They still had a bite to them, and they were still pretty raw. And so when I started adding my spices, things cooked up faster than I anticipated, and my onions never really got super cooked and caramelized and delicious. And a lot of curry bases require a very well cooked onion. So I recommend sauteing your onion until it's nice and light brown and you know it's cooked, to the point where if the dish finished right then and there, you know that a child would not pick out your onions because of that raw crunchiness. So I need to go back and check on my onions, but it does take a few minutes for those onions to cook down that olive oil, and it is really key that you cook out the rawness. Take a bite of the onion, it should be soft in your mouth, it shouldn't have a crunch, and I just tried my onion and it was a little too crunchy. So I'm going to continue sauteing, I'll be back in just a moment. Right now, my sweet potatoes are almost cooked. I do think that it'll only take 20 minutes to cook. 10 minutes, I flip it over, another 10 minutes. I had cubed up my sweet potatoes pretty small, which is the reason why I think they cooked so fast. And so now on my skillet behind, you hear it sizzling, I've got my onions that I softened, then I added my spices, and finally I added my ground turkey. It's really important that when you add your ground turkey, not to smash the turkey. You don't want your final results where the ground meat is so incredibly smushed up that it kind of looks like dog food. You don't want it to look like that. It has to have some texture in it. So with your spoon, make sure when you flip over your ground meat that you're using a light hand. You're moving the meat. You want it to be in small little chunks, but you don't want it to be so incredibly smushed up that it's just mushiness and there's no texture. So it is important that you stir well and you stir frequently, and you do want some of those brown bits. I do think the keema curry would probably be a little more flavorful with a pork or a beef, but there's plenty of spices in here, and that turkey is going to be a little bit more healthful. So I've just been cooking my keema for just a little bit, probably not even 5 minutes, and it looks almost cooked. I'm going to keep on cooking, and I'm going to add my peas at this point, and as soon as my sweet potatoes come out of the oven, I'm going to go ahead and add that to my skillet as well. And this is a very, very quick dish, and you get a very quick keema curry, a ground meat curry, in 30 minutes, really. So I'll be back in just a moment. That's it. I'm done. My keema curry has come together, and the best news is my 2-year-old is still sleeping, and so that means now that my dish is done, I get to have a little bit of time to play with my big girls before the little brother wakes up. So this keema curry always reminds me of my good friend Andrew. Andrew and I went to law school together, and he's one of my best friends in law school. We actually moved to California together. And he loves keema curry, and he is now a fabulously fit, following a very strict paleo diet. I think that he bends a few rules sometimes, but generally adheres to them. So Andrew, if you're watching this, you can make my version of the keema curry with any sort of meat, and go ahead and use sweet potatoes. And instead of putting all of this on top of a big bed of delicious rice, you could certainly just go with a bed of greens. The keema curry itself is so flavorful that you're not going to miss the rice. There's also a lot of sweet potatoes in here, so that also gives it a little bit more of a satisfaction. So keema curry on top of even chopped up kale or spinach or any sort of greens will be a very helpful dish. And it could be a keema curry salad, and that way your salad has a little more flavor and a bit more of a kick to it. I didn't need to add any salt to my keema curry, but I did add a little bit more red pepper. It wasn't spicy enough. If you're not making this for kids, I do recommend 1 teaspoon of ground chili powder. I upped this to about 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon, and I can get away with that because I've conditioned my children's tongue, so they are used to spicy flavor, and they no longer need a mouthful of mango lassi to get down the spice. The other thing that I did is I allowed this mixture just to sort of cook on my skillet without moving it, so I could get some nice charred brown bits, because those brown bits have a lot of flavor and added a little bit more depth to the dish. So do give the stirring a break for maybe 30 seconds to a minute. Let the bottom of the skillet brown up where the turkey meat is getting a little more brown, so are the potatoes and the peas, and then go ahead and give it a good mix and scrape off all those brown bits from your skillet, and make sure you add it to your dish, so your dish is so much more flavorful. So now I've got dinner ready for the kids. All I have to do is make my rice, and I don't know how my mom did it. I don't know how she worked full time and made us delicious food, but I'm really grateful that I am able to be with my children on this journey, and I get to cook for them 3 unprocessed meals a day. And I hope they enjoy this, and I hope you give this dish a try, and I hope your kids enjoy it and that your family enjoys it. Thanks so much. And I forgot to show you the finished product. So here is what it looks like. The meat is still in pieces over here, and you've got a good amount of green peas and sweet potatoes.